All right, guys, exciting new developments on the GT350 with E85. All right, guys, so in the previous video, we discussed the trials and tribulations of my GT350 going E85. And in that video, we described that all the goodies that I purchased in order to go E85. And then we also described the poor communication and service that was provided to me from the previous tuner. And also described that we were going with a new tuner and that the new tuner sent me, I think it's like a first or second revision at the time, that was already pulling like crazy. So today, it's been about a week since I last posted a video, and my car pulls, it's a completely different animal. Honestly, it feels like it's boosted. And I know a lot of you are gonna be like, there's no way, blah, 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 blah. Like, it's not that big of a difference. But for our GT350s, if you have a GT350 and you're contemplating going E85, definitely, it feels boosted. And what's weird is I've heard that on like normal drive versus sport mode on the GT350 as an example, like they changed the fuel mapping and a few other things, but even on the normal drive on the freeway with the valves open and, you know, foot at 90%, the car is it feels like the front end's going up. Like, it is ridiculous. I don't know if I mentioned this at the time. I think I was like on version 1 that the tuner sent me. So he sent me a base file, then he sent me version 1, and then he sent me version 2, and then he sent me version 2.1, and we're at 2.2. So I don't know what exactly he changed, but he did explain it in a video that I'm going to post in the description below. But basically that my car's adding timing now, a pretty good amount of timing. The car is making a crap ton of power. And you definitely feel it in the butt dyno, at least for me every time I drive it. Like, for an example, last time I drove it, it's Thursday night. Last time I drove it, I think it was like Sunday, or I think it was Sunday. And the car on Sunday was scary. It was a pleasure to drive, even, you know, through canyons. It was very responsive. On the GT350, if you have a GT350, you know that anywhere before, I want to say like 3,200 RPMs, nobody's home. That has definitely been corrected. It's still not as powerful as, like, say, the 3,300, 3,400, and as you go up the RPM range. But let me tell you that there's somebody home now under, you know, 3,200. It's noticeably different. So throughout this journey, we are now tuned for 85, and I'm very happy with the results. My tuner's still working on like the next revision, which he sent me a tune, but I'm actually pretty happy where we're at right now. I don't need to be making a ton of power. There's a difference between like making all the power in the world and having your car enjoyable to drive, at least for me. And sure, I can make, you know, an extra 5-10 horsepower, but for right now where it's at is it's to the point where it's like borderline, you need an open road to like enjoy it. Maybe, I don't know if that's the right word. Like, I still want to be able to enjoy it on the street without being scared that don't have enough room. I don't know if that makes sense. So this whole thing, I've learned a few things. First thing is big name tuners, they can get so busy that they don't pay attention to, you know, what we paid them for. Second thing is, whenever you're buying a tune, you know, it's not promised that it will work the way that, you know, whoever's selling it to you. In this case, it was Ortiz. When the tuner, he did a whole video on comparing the Ortiz tune and what my car was doing, and then the P1 tuning or tuners, I can't remember it on the spot, but he did a video and he compared the differences. And it's very enlightening, but two, the previous tuner just kept blaming my car, even though there was a few other things that could have been done for my car to produce the power that it needed. Like, my previous tuner kept insisting that it has to be your car, it has to be your car, it has to be your car. And then this tuner is like, no, there are a lot of things that we can do. Maybe your car is requiring more fuel or this or that or whatever it is. And based on my understanding was that there wasn't enough fuel in the previous tune. And there was a few other things that needed to be tweaked slightly in order to start making power. So now we're at that power stage. So next one I learned is that I think big thing is it's okay to hold these tuners accountable. So one of the things I did is on the 3.7, I came from a V6 Mustang, so I'm still a part of the community. I posted on there because Ortiz was a big name for the 3.7 community and the 5.0 community. I told everyone, hey, there's a tuner that just completely ignored me, did this, and that. And they said that it was a crime to the community not to put his name in my post because I didn't want to name drop. And I ended up name dropping that it was Ortiz Performance. And of course, the tuner, Lewis, came out of nowhere, and he was trying to protect his name, which is great. But at the same time, like, a lot of other people came out of the woodwork saying the exact same thing, which was that their communication was garbage, their lead time was garbage, their support was garbage. And so you can hold these tuners accountable and not just like accept them and their faults because they're so big and they're a name brand. So I think that's a big thing. Next thing is if your car's not responding right, like I think it should be up to the tuner, which is that's what you paid them for, to explain what exactly they're seeing and then how to remedy it. All the previous tuner tried to do was say that we're seeing knocking, okay? And he told me to check the exhaust. Well, I'm checking the exhaust. There's no issues. It's not hitting. There's nothing wrong with the exhaust. Like, knocking's coming from something else. And it turned out to be the tune all along. So I think it's unfortunate that these guys get so big and they take your money. Like, I'm just so grateful that I was able to find somebody that's as passionate as he is to be able to tune the GT350, because now it's such a different character. Like, for an example, when I went from 91 to 85, one of the things that I lost that I was very sad was, like, if you own a GT350, you know that it pops and gurgles everywhere. If you're deaccelerating, the pops and gurgles are natural, comes like that from the factory. When you take the cats off, it's like a field day. Like, it's a whole rally. It's wild. When I went E85 from 91, I lost that. It would pop and bang a little bit, but it wasn't anywhere near 91. With the new tune, I noticed significantly that the pops and gurgles and the whole 9 yards, they're back. And my gosh, it pops and bangs crazy. So definitely wasn't right from the beginning. Definitely no support. It's like, what I didn't like is it felt like they took my money and then they ran. And it's unfortunate because it was like $700. So I think big thing is, if you're thinking about going E85, be careful. I would trust P1 tuners again. I don't know what Lund has to offer. Their tunes are pretty comparable to Ortiz. So I've heard only good things about Lund, and the response time was immediate, like same day, when I was emailing them, when I was thinking about going to Lund. So maybe in the future I'll give them a try, but right now I'm very happy with the tune that I have on the vehicle right now. Like I said, the whole front end lifts up. And then something else that came to mind, my E85 Mustang GT, the 2020 Gen 3 Coyote, was also tuned by them. So I wonder, because I did notice, like, oh, it's fast, but it's not like, I would imagine 500 horsepower is like a lot. So it makes me wonder, like, was that even tuned correctly? I would send logs to them back in the day, and even then they, I guess, were too busy to look at them. So stay away from Ortiz, stay away from Auto Mafia. This is what I've learned. I've been with Mustangs for a while now, probably since like 2015, so almost 10 years. I've been with the different communities, the 3.7, the 5.0s, now the Shelby guys. I think big thing is keeping the tuners accountable for the mistakes that they make, and then letting the community know, hey, don't use these guys anymore. That happened with Auto Mafia for the 3.7 guys. Is I guess there was a number of issues, kind of the same thing, where the communication was garbage, that they weren't tuning cars correctly, they weren't able to keep up with the demand, and their quality really dropped. So with the quality dropping, a lot of users went to the 3.7 community like pages and were complaining. Their reputation really did take a hit, and I think the same thing's going on for Ortiz at this time. So another thing for tuners, I think that there's a big market for tuning. There'll always be a big market for tuning these vehicles, but I think it's up to the tuners to keep their quality up to a certain standard, but also not taking every tune that comes through the front door. I don't know if that makes sense. Like, if you can't keep up with the demand, if your team's not as big, if you're noticing your quality slipping, it's okay to have a wait time. Be communicative of your wait time, but also don't just take everybody, you know, because then everyone's waiting. It's money there waiting for the tuners to take, but eventually, if your quality is garbage and your name gets dropped, well, that pot is just gonna vanish because your reputation's tarnished. So I can go on a whole tangent for a really long time, but ultimately I'm very happy. If you're thinking about going 85 with either 3.7 with the 5.0 or the 5.2, I would highly recommend it, especially if you're in California, because gas prices are stupid here in California. They're close to $6 for 91, and E85 usually it's 309, 319 on the high side. Today I paid 339. It's not that much considering, you know, how much gasoline is. So, and the benefits are just, you can look at some of my other videos. I explain some of the benefits you get with the 85. So if you're thinking about it, please do. If you have a Mustang and you're having problems, reach out to P1 Tuners. I'll post their link in the description below. It's a totally different car. When people told me that in the past, I remember thinking, is it really that different? Like, I call bullshit. Chris Jenkins, California Shelby's, he kept saying that the car is a completely different animal on E85. And he was right. He was right. So if you're thinking about doing it, please do it. It is incredibly rowdy. Another thing you notice, if you don't have cats, one, if you're going 85, I would think about doing long tube headers or just cutting off your cats or getting one of the cat delete kits. But the smell on E85 it's nice. So the last thing I wanted to add was, I also know that it wasn't tuned right, because when I took my car in for service to Upland Ford, they're a big Shelby shop, a Ford repair center that works on Shelby's. The main engineer, GM guy, he questioned, are you on E85? And I said, yeah, like, I'm tuned for 85. And he's like, it doesn't smell like E85. So he told me that usually a lot of tuners will run their tune either very rich or very lean. He thought that maybe they leaned out the car, which is kind of dangerous. So, well, yeah, if you're thinking about doing it, do it, especially if you're in California. The reason I brought that last segment up was because these little details add up as to, my car wasn't feeling right. Maybe it's just me. No, other people are also experiencing it. Communication's garbage. A master tech even noticed that it didn't smell like E85, and then the video that this new tuner confirms it, that there was issues with the tune. So be vocal. If you feel like something's not right, be vocal. It's okay. You paid for it. Appreciate you guys watching. And if you have any questions, post them in the messages below. Appreciate you guys watching and supporting the channel.